Happy Friday to everybody out there, man. It has been a long week, but it is Friday. I'm excited, and I'm going to tell you why I'm excited today. We got a nice little show lined up for you, so buckle your seatbelts and enjoy the ride. LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 153rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, evening. Wherever you may be, thank you for tuning in and joining your man, Louie T, on this podcast. If you're listening to this on playback, thank you very much for your support. And also, if you could rate this podcast, give it a few... not a few. Give me 5 stars, okay? Either 5 or nothing, okay? All or nothing. So rate the podcast, review it. Help the podcast out, man. Wherever you're getting this, whether it's on YouTube, like the video, like the podcast. Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on the notification bell. I've heard the notification bell isn't working. It's malfunctioning. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to try to do my part. I've been a little bit better. I've got to get better at alerting everyone that I'm going live. I didn't do it before this podcast, so obviously I still got a long way to go. Charge it to my head, not my heart. So anyway, we'll work on that to be a little bit more diligent in notifying everyone that is following me on the various social media platforms that I'm going live, so you won't miss out if you want to be in attendance live. That said, I told you guys, and I teased this, not that you even really care, but I care and I want to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. I told you I was having some issues this week. And honestly speaking, I told you guys when this first happened. So my son had been home with me since November. Remember, I told you guys back in November that there was a positive test at his daycare. We panicked. We yanked him out of daycare. And since I work from home, I was pretty much designated the, all-day babysitter, essentially, which is fine. He's my son. I don't mind watching him. He's a great guy. So I love my son to death. And at first it wasn't bad, and I was saving a couple of bucks. Daycare is very expensive for those of you who have little ones, or have had little ones. Daycare is not a game, okay? It can get pretty damn expensive. So I was happy to save a couple bucks a month and be able to put that back into my wallet. And so I wasn't really upset about it at first. But as time progressed and passed, I was like, okay, man, this little bastard here. and again, let me reiterate this. Love my son to death. Man, he's a great guy. Love my son. He's so hilarious. Sometimes I wonder if he hasn't been here before. But that said, he's still 2. And there are times where he's like, look, Dad, I don't give a shit that you have stuff to do. I want to play, or I want to go outside, or I'm hungry, or his pamper needs to be changed. We're trying to potty train him. And oh my God, and you ever seen the Family Guy episode where Stewie is like, Mom, 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 Mommy, Mommy, Mom, Mom. Like, that is my son. He'll be like, Dad, Dad, Dad. Dad, you'd be like, yes, Dad. Like, why are you calling me? Stop calling me. You're going to drive me nuts. So I got to the point this week where I was like, okay, I've had enough. And my fiance has told me for the last 2 months, like, yo, I think the coast is clear. I think we can send them back to daycare now. And I've been the one I've been the one that's been apprehensive. I've been the one that's had the pushback. Like, the draft's almost over. If I could just get past the draft, I'll be fine. And she's like, okay, if I were you, I'd send him back. You're the one with him all day, not me. So this week it came to a head. He kicked my ass this week. And I had started to play around with the idea last week of sending him back. And, once you start to cross over that line of, hey, maybe it's okay, you convince yourself, all right, he needs to go. And you know how it is when you're about to leave a job or you're about to hit a vacation or something, and you start thinking about it in advance. It's no different than you being at work. You know you get off at 4 o'clock. And right around 2:30, you start eyeballing the clock every 2 seconds. And now the time is just dragging. And you're like, damn it, man. 4 o'clock can't get here fast enough. And you got a 3-day weekend waiting on your ass. So you're like, man, if 4 o'clock don't hurry up, I'm going to end up cussing somebody out. That's how I pretty much was this week. Everything that could go wrong with this kid did go wrong this week. He just wasn't having it. He spazzed out on me a couple of times. Me and him were at odds. I was like, look, man, you go sit down. Okay. It got to the point where I'm like, hey, we got to send this guy back to daycare. We got to send him back to daycare right now. And so we finally, I thought he was going back on Wednesday. They said, hey, you're missing some paperwork and he needs a physical just to make sure that he's okay and in the clear to come back. So then we had to set up a doctor's appointment. We had to take him there. And oh my goodness. Okay. Thursday hit, which was yesterday, and I was finally able to take him back to daycare for the first time in like 5 months. And it was like heaven. Hallelujah. 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 Man, I never thought that dropping off your own kid could feel that good. But man, was that exhilarating or what? I didn't know what to do with myself yesterday. Anyway, long story short, I was very unproductive this week by my standards. And I have been unproductive really this entire draft season because remember I had been telling you guys, I'm going to kill it this draft. I'm going to be talking about all kinds of players from everywhere. I'm going to be all over the draft. I haven't been able to do that. I just simply haven't been able to do the things that I thought I was going to be able to do because he was always here. He was always here. I couldn't get rid of him. He was always here. Every time I turn around, he was there. So now that he's back at daycare, I can get down to business. So hopefully you're going to see an uptick in production. We're going to ratchet this thing up. We got a month left of draft coverage. So I'm going to go balls to the wall with it. And we'll just let the cards fall where they may. And hopefully I get as much done as I intended to get done when this process first got started. But I'm ready, man. I'm excited. And whew, it couldn't have come at a better time. Okay. So just tell you. Anyway, that said, let's jump into the proceedings this evening. Got a lot of things I want to talk about on today's show. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, LouieTeeNetwork. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. I want some more Pro Day react. So let's go ahead, take a look at some more players that are prevalent names in the upcoming 2021 NFL Draft and how they did at their Pro Days. Now, I just want to throw out this caveat. These Pro Days, I usually don't put a lot of stock in the Pro Days because I usually get the information I need from the Combine. And because we haven't had a Combine this year. Remember, last year we did get a Combine. It was the Pro Days that really got derailed. But we got the Combine in because remember, the Combine is usually late February, mid to late February. And Corona didn't really hit the U.S. and really impact us where we got total shutdowns across the board until March. So we snuck the Combine in last year. It was the Pro Days that were really impacted where you didn't get to see the scouts and people didn't get to see these players up close and personal. So it's the reverse this year. There's no Combine, but there are Pro Days galore this year. And I'm not really a big Pro Day guy because, again, the only things that we know are going to be legitimate at a Pro Day are the measurements. Height, weight, length of arms, things of that nature. Yeah, they can do that stuff and still get accurate numbers because that travels. The hand times, everybody's running a 4.3 something. Everybody's running a 4.4 something. Hell, I feel like I could run a 4.4 something with these hand times right now. I don't put as much stock into that, but at the end of the day, I still need to know what guys' height and weight are because you can't trust the college program, okay? I was 6'2" in high school. I'm 6 feet tall, okay? Never been an inch over 6 feet a day in my life, okay? I was 6'2" on the high school program. So you can't trust those programs. They lie all the time. And so the perfect example is Rashad Bateman. We'll talk about him here in a second, but these pro days, take them with a grain of salt is essentially what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm trying to explain to you in a long form, long-winded way is be careful with these pro days. Don't run and hide with these things, okay? Trust your eyes, trust the tape, trust the evaluations that you've had going into these, and use these pro days, just like we use the combine, as a cross-reference and a cross-check, okay? You're just looking to make sure everything kind of lines up the way that you had seen on tape. The things that you wrote down or the things that you made mental notes of, just making sure that these things all line up with each other. Yep, that's what I saw on tape. That's pretty much about spot on right there. That's all you should be looking for. And if some things are outliers, then that's where you either need to go back and do some more work, or you need to be able to ask questions like, why did this happen? Why did you run this slow? Why did you jump this high? Or why didn't you jump this high? That's all. I mean, at the end of the day, take these pro days with a grain of salt. Remember, believe half of what you see. Even if you're watching these pro days on the SEC network or on the ACC network or the Big Ten network, remember, believe half of what you see. None of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about some of these pro days. Penei Sewell had his pro day today. One of the big tackles in this draft. Will he be first off the board? Doesn't seem like he's going to be first. Doesn't matter. He's going to be one of the first 3 tackles taken in this draft. Probably more like one of the first 2. But that said, 6'5", 331 pounds, a 33 and 1/4 arm, so 33 inches and a quarter arm length for the Oregon tackle. 81-inch wingspan, which is very important when we're talking tackles to keep these edge rushers at bay, and 31 reps of 2 1/4. So he pretty much solidified, because again, the tape is what you need. He pretty much solidified himself, you know, from a height weight standpoint. And we know he's an athlete. He checks off all those boxes. He's going to be one of the top 15 players selected in the upcoming NFL draft, I'd like to believe. Tackles get pushed up, as I tell you all the time. It's one of the most important positions on the offensive side of the football. I expect Penei Sewell to be snatched up within the first 15 picks, more likely than not, of this draft. Another offensive lineman. Let's switch schools and talk about another guy that I think more likely than not is going to be a first-round pick in this draft, and Tevin Jenkins of Oklahoma State University. They had their pro day, I think yesterday, and he weighed in at 317 pounds, standing 6'6". So again, checking off those boxes you like to see. 33.5-inch arms, so another box check there. 36 reps of 2 1/4 for the future first-round offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. Couple of guys also from that school on the offensive side of the football worth mentioning. Chuba Hubbard, a guy that if he would have come out last year in the draft, might have been looked upon as a first-round pick, no worse than a second. I don't know where Chuba Hubbard's going to end up this year. The running back position isn't being highly valued this year, because we see guys that have, you know, potential first-round talent that may not make it in the first round, like Alabama's running back or Clemson's running back. I think he may be the lone first-round pick. But Najee Harris, to me, has first-round talent. He doesn't have first-round speed, and that may be ultimately the deciding factor as to why he doesn't make it in the first round. But we will see. Chuba Hubbard 6 foot, 210, 4.4, 840. That's a good time for him. Would you like him to be 217, 220? Sure. 210's a little light, but I mean, Alvin Kamara's 215. It is what it is. Chuba Hubbard, I think a lot of people have cooled on him over the last year or so. I still think he has a chance to be a solid NFL back. I don't know if he has the ability to be a dominant NFL back, but we'll see. But that's a good time for Chuba Hubbard nonetheless. And Tylan Wallace is a wide receiver from Oklahoma State, a guy that I think could be a day number 2 pick. 5'11", 194 pounds, ran a 4.48 himself. So we'll see if those guys help themselves with their pro day. Those 40 times, though, are big helps to their cause if they're looking to become day 2 selections. Let's talk about Central Florida defensive backs, and there are a couple in particular that could hear their names called as early as the second round, but look like day 2 selections, whether it be second or third round. We start with UCF safety Richie Grant. 5'11" and 5'8" is what he measured in at. So essentially, we can just round that up to 6 feet. Usually, once a guy is any taller than a half, I just round it up. So he's 6 feet, $197, ran a 4.49 and a 10.9 broad jump. So that shows the explosion at the safety position. You'll take it all day long, all day strong. And remember that Richie Grant was one of the big standouts from the Senior Bowl. He was one of the guys that really made a name for himself and probably made himself some money the week of the Senior Bowl. So he followed up the momentum he built at Mobile with a strong pro day that makes a big cause for him, an argument to be maybe the second safety taken off the board behind Trayvon Moehrig in this draft. We will see where Richie Grant ultimately lands. And then one of his backfield or secondary mates in cornerback Aaron Robinson out of Central Florida, 5'11" and a half, 186 pounds, ran a 4.39 40 with a 37-inch vertical leap. A lot of people have this guy as a second round corner right now in the 2021 NFL draft. Those numbers definitely did not hurt his cause. So if you liked Aaron Robinson going into his pro day and he checked off all the boxes you were looking for him to check off, more likely than not, he's going to be a day 2 selection, probably in the second round, with that kind of speed and that kind of agility that he brings to the table. And then finally, I want to wrap this segment up with Rashad Bateman and a discussion about the Minnesota wide receiver. So I talked about how programs lie, and this is why it is important that we have these measurements. And that's why the combine is so big for me. I honestly, if a guy runs 4.48 and I thought he was a 4.6 guy and he runs a 4.48, whoa, didn't see that coming. That turns heads a bit. If a guy looks like he's a burner and I'm thinking, they tell us all week long and I'm thinking to myself, he's going to run 4.42. He's going to run 4.39 and then he runs a 4.52. You're like, but for me, the combine doesn't really, I don't get hung up on it. The biggest thing that I take from the combine is your measurables, because again, we just go off of what the school tells us for their entire career. If the school says he's 6'2", 215, well, he's 6'2", 215 until he's actually measured at either the Senior Bowl or the Combine. He's 6'2", 215, and that's what we run with. Until we get those actual measurements, we don't know. We can only assume. And guys look 6'2" on TV. You can look at a guy and tell if he's 6'4", 6'5", you're like, yeah, he looks big. But, when a guy's 6'2", 6'1", 6 feet, that all kind of bleeds together. It all bleeds together. It all kind of looks the same. Jamar Chase, Rashad Bateman, if you tell me one of them 6'1", if you tell me the other 6'2", okay, they all look the same. How tall are these guys really? How much do they really weigh? That's what's important at these different events, Combine, Senior Bowl, Pro Days, what may have you. And with no Combine, Rashad Bateman, 6'2", 215, 210, somewhere in that neighborhood is what he was listed as. He measured out at 6 feet, 190. A full 20 to 25 pounds lighter and a full 2 inches shorter than what had been recorded and reported at Minnesota for the last 3 years. So he said, look, I don't know what they had in the program. I don't know what you guys thought I was going to be. I've never been a pound over $190 a day in my life. Never played a snap at Minnesota for the Gophers, a pound over $190. So again, I can't tell you what they had in the program, and I can't, dispute any of that. I'm just telling you what I am. Cool. He's 6 feet, which I don't get hung up about. We see 6 feet receivers dominate all the time. This draft, I'll just tell you this in advance. This draft isn't the draft if you're looking for a 6'3", 6'4", 6'5 behemoth that runs fast and can jump out of the gym. This isn't the draft for you. Okay? There were a bunch of 6'5 targets last year, and the year before that, there aren't any of them really in this year's draft. It's a bunch of 6'2", 6'1", 6 foot and under guys. And that's fine. Talent is talent. Would you prefer the talent to be 6'4", 220, runs a 4.43? Yeah, absolutely you would. Would you rather the talent look like DK Metcalf or Tyreek Hill? You rather it look like DK Metcalf, but guess what? They're both dominant, right? Who gives a shit? Anyway, Rashad Bateman, 6 feet, $190. Okay, so let's get past that. He's not what we thought he was in terms of height and weight. This is the thing that I'm looking at. He ran a 4.39. Now, again, I'm not going to get hung up on the hand times and is he a legitimate 4.39, because what are we talking about here? If the hand time is slightly off, it's slightly off by a few hundredths of a second. So maybe he's a 4.42. I still didn't see that shit on tape. 4.43, 4.41, 4.39. I didn't see any of that shit. I thought he was going to be a legitimate 4.49 or 4.52 guy. I don't know about you. Please tell me. I'm dying for your feedback because I thought I was losing my mind. I watched a ton of Rashad Bateman. I watched a lot of him on tape. I watched a lot of him live watching college football action over the years. I never once said he's a Blazer. Hell, Ottman Bell, his teammate, I always thought he was way faster than Rashad Bateman. I've never seen Rashad Bateman get over the top of anybody. When I'm watching him on the all-22s and he's running a go ball, that receiver's right in his hip pocket. He's not getting any separation. So in my mind, I'm saying he's not a Blazer, and that's okay. Most of his damage was done in between the numbers. Dig routes and in routes and in breaking routes. He did a lot of damage run after the catch. And if it was damage done on the outside, it was routes that started going to the inside and him breaking it back outside. Or it was a quick speed cut. Or there was a breakdown in coverage like against Penn State in 2019 where he catches a ball because the corner reacts to a fake wide receiver screen. He's running down the sidelines wide open. The safety takes a poor angle, goes for the ball, misses, and he walks in the end zone on like a 70-yard touchdown. I'm not saying he's not fast. This was the same discussion we had about Justin Jefferson last year. And I told you, there were instances on tape where you saw Justin Jefferson's speed, like against Texas, the first game of the season, where he catches that ball, he breaks a tackle, and he hauls ass down the sideline, and they can't catch him, and he puts an exclamation point on the win on the road at Texas to kick off what was going to be a historic season for the LSU Tigers. You got to see instances where he opens up and they can't catch him. And I said that 4.42 he ran at the combine, that's legit. I never saw it with Rashad Bateman on tape. I never saw it. So that 4.39, I'm asking myself, is that just straight line speed or do you actually play at that speed? Because I didn't see it. You know who I comp him to? I comp Rashad Bateman, and again, I thought he was a lot bigger than this. I comped him to Keenan Allen. He looks like Keenan Allen to me. A second coming of Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen hasn't run, the second number of his 40 has never been 4. Never. It's always been 5. I thought Rashad Bateman was going to be the same way. I'm shocked that he ran a 4.39. He could, though, be another Justin Jefferson. He's not as big as Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson's over 200 pounds. Justin Jefferson's 6'1", 6'2". but he could be one of those guys that didn't necessarily show you a ton of speed on tape because of the routes he was asked to run. And there's a reason he was asked to run those routes, more likely than not, but we'll see. I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I don't know about Rashad Bateman. That's all I'm saying. I got my doubts. I've got my questions. The guy is talented. There's no doubt about it. Silky smooth route runner. We'll break him down next week. I just didn't see 4.39 coming. I can't speak for any of you out there. And I watched him in 2019 when he had his breakout season, when there was all this talent around him at Minnesota, and there was all of these footballs to go around for everyone. I didn't see it. So I got my questions. I got my doubts about Rashad Bateman. One thing I'm not doubting is the talent. So we'll see about that. But in any event, that's just a little bit more reaction from some of the pro days that have come out since the last time we've spoken. We'll probably have more pro day discussions as we near the draft. We should be getting towards the end of that process now and putting a bow on that. But you're going to still have some private workouts for some of these teams with some of these players, i.e. Trey Lance, a private workout for the 49ers, i.e. Justin Fields, a private workout for the 49ers. We'll talk about all those things at a later date and time. But these pro days are starting to come in hot and heavy, and we're starting to get some height, weight, and measurements, and speed, and all of those good things from a lot of these top prospects. So with that said, before we get to our next segment, and we're going to have some fun with that one, let's get to a word from one of our sponsors. So I want to thank RentalKarma.com for sponsoring the Louie T Network podcast. Rental Karma is a site where you can go and put in your rental history. If you are a renter, a current renter, if you own a house, again, I'm trying to get to where you are. I'm not there yet. So I want to get to where you are. And one of the ways I can help myself do that is by bettering my credit score. And one of the ways I can better my credit score is by using a tool like Rental Karma that allows you to leverage your rental history and your future rental situation and better your credit score. In up to 10 days, you can see your credit score go upwards of 40 points. I mean, I can't tell you how big of a difference 40 points makes on your credit score. And I've explained this to you guys on several occasions, how important your credit score is to future investments, whether it's a home, whether it's a car. Your credit is important. It is the lifeline of your purchasing history, past, present, and future. So why not give your lifeline a boost by using your rental history, past, present, and future, to help bolster your credit score? And that's where Rental Karma comes in. You go to the site, rentalkarma.com, put in the promo code Louie or LTN25 to get 25% off of their services. That's rentalkarma.com. Use the promo code LTN25 to get 25% off of their services that they will render for you to help use your rental history. You pay your rent on time. Again, that's the one thing you can assure yourself of. I'm going to pay that on time. May not pay your Netflix on time, may not pay your car insurance on time, may not pay your credit card bill, which will impact your credit score. So make sure you're doing that. All right, may not pay the cable bill on time if you got one. Cell phone bill may get pushed back a week. Rent's not. That's why you should be using that to help your credit score, and that's where Rental Karma comes into play. Use rentalkarma.com and see your credit score be boosted anywhere from 30 to 50 points in just a matter of 10 days. So let's move on to a brand new segment that we will have fun with, maybe a lot more moving forward, called So Whatchu Sayin Is. And before we jump into what you saying is, I want to ask you guys to do a slight favor for me. I'm going to ask you guys to do me a huge solid. Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit the like button. Over 100 of you out there, only 42 likes at this current moment. Let's get this thing up to over 50. Then we get there, let's get it to up to 75. And then hopefully we can try to get around the century mark before this thing is done. I do have a super chat that I want to get to, and this is from my guy Colton Wheeler. Thank you for the super chat, Colton Wheeler. Greatly appreciate you. My man Colton Wheeler writes, new draft day fantasy, aka just showing some support for the channel and putting ideas into the universe. Philly is rebuilding. They already moved off of the 6th pick. Do you give them 1982 and 114 to go get Parsons? Thoughts? First of all, thank you for the support. Greatly appreciate it. And every single cent that is poured into the Louie T Network is definitely needed, okay, to help power this thing. You guys are the engines, essentially, that power the Louie T Network podcast and Louie T Network brand in general. So thank you so much for the support. That said, why would you want to help Philadelphia rebuild? Like, we're not looking to help. And, you know, you could look at it from one side of the, and this is the side of the spectrum that I assume you're looking at it at, or end of the spectrum, I should say. Spectrum doesn't have sides, it has ends. You're probably looking at it from the end of the spectrum that says, well, we're getting Parsons. That's what we want. That's what we need. But in the process, you're helping the Eagles get better faster. Why would you want to do that? If you're a Washington fan, the last thing you want to do is help the Eagles back on their feet any faster than it's going to happen, if it's going to happen at all. You know, if they're down, keep them down. They've been on top for a while here in the NFC East. They won a Super Bowl more recently than any other team in the division. They've won more division crowns probably than any other team in the division the last 6 years or so. Why the hell do you want to help them rebuild? Yeah, if they're rebuilding, let them do that shit on their own. F the Eagles. Let them rebuild on their own merit. Let them trade with the 49ers. Let them trade with, you know, the Dolphins or whomever they're trading with. I think they traded with the Dolphins out of 6. Let them do that. I don't want to help them. You know, I'm not looking to make friends with the Philadelphia Eagles, even if I need a pick from them to potentially go up and get a guy. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to help them by giving them an additional pick in the 82nd pick is the 3rd round, and then 114 is probably the 4th round. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to help them fast track this thing. And we think they're going to stink this year. They may turn it around and be really good this year because of all the draft capital they've been able to get off of the moves that they've made, moving back a couple of times in this draft. No one player is going to help change the fortunes of the Philadelphia Eagles. So they need more draft capital. I don't want to be one of the teams that helps them acquire the draft capital that they need to get better sooner rather than later. So no, I wouldn't do it. Even though I would love to have Micah Parsons on our roster, I wouldn't do it to help the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, and 12 for Parsons is, like you said, it's a little draft day fantasy-ish, because I still, with all the nonsense going on in the top 10, I still don't think that guy gets out of the top 10. He's just too talented. I don't see, if the Lions aren't looking to move out to allow somebody to come up in front of Carolina to get a quarterback, if they stand pat at number 7, I don't see how the Lions pass up on Michael Parsons. I think that's probably right in their wheelhouse in terms of what they're looking to do from a defensive standpoint. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with Detroit and what happens with Michael Parsons, but I can't see him getting out of the top 10. But again, only 10 guys are going in the top 10, and 5 might be quarterbacks. So, and we know that if nothing else, I feel really confident in saying a receiver is getting taken, at least one is getting taken in the top 10, more likely than not. Jamar Chase and a tight end, Kyle Pitts, is getting taken in the top 10 as well. I don't see how either one of those guys make it out of the top 10. So whether someone trades up for them or one of these teams that's already in the top 10 stands pat and takes one of those guys, I just don't see how either one of them come out of the top 10 not selected. So for me, you're looking at either 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the top 10 and a receiver and a tight end accounting for slots in the top 10 as well. So you're either talking about 6 or 7 spots in the top 10 already accounted for. So I could see why you could say, hey, maybe Parsons is a little bit of that spillage that we've been talking about, that overflow that falls out of the top 10. It has no business falling out of the top 10, but these quarterbacks being pushed up, there's going to be an overflow. There's going to be some spillage. I don't know if Parsons is one of the guys affected by the spillage, so in the overflow. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Colton Wheeler. Greatly appreciate you. So let's get to what you saying is, and we start with Shanahan and Lynch in San Francisco. It's been a hot topic of discussion on this podcast. We've talked about the big blockbuster deal that the 49ers was involved in on March the 26th when they moved up to number 3 all the way from 12 to presumably draft their quarterback of the future. There's been a ton of debate as to whom that guy is. Let's add a couple more layers to this thing now, and we're going to talk about this thing to death. I'm just telling you, and I told you this already. I said we're going to talk about this thing. You're going to be tired of it probably by the time we get to the draft, but we don't see these types of trades happen before the draft this far out very often. Normally, when it happens, we know exactly who the player it's for. Like when the Titans traded the number 1 pick to the Rams, we all assumed initially it was for Wentz, but we quickly found out it was for Jared Goff, and we already knew they were taking Jared Goff at number 1. And after that happened, after it was commonplace and common knowledge and public record that the Rams were going to take Goff, then the Browns decided, well, we're going to get out of 2. Eagles, you want to come up here and get Carson Wentz? Knock yourself out. And they did. And all of these draft trades happened before the draft, but we knew exactly what the commodity was they were coming up to get. When the Jets traded up to number 3, we didn't know how the draft was going to happen. We just knew the Jets were going to get a quarterback. They were pretty much planting their flag saying, hey, we getting a quarterback. We don't know which one is going to be available at 3 because the Browns sit at number 1 and they got the number 1 pick and they can take a quarterback and they are going to take a quarterback. But we know whatever's left at 3, we're going to take the guy that we feel the most confident about. And they did. They took Sam Darnold. But that wasn't a big deal. This is a big deal because the first 2 picks of the draft are going to be quarterbacks. And we don't know what exactly the 49ers are going to do. And there's a report out there that Shanahan and Lynch disagree on what quarterback to draft. I find that interesting if it's true. And I don't see why it's not. So this report and rumor kind of started with Michael Lombardi on a podcast, and Michael Lombardi, he's a bit of a hack. I'll admit that. But he's a hack with insider information. He's been in the league for a very long time. He knows a lot of people. And so I tend to at least listen, not necessarily run with what he's saying, but I listen to what he has to say. I don't just dismiss him because I think he can be a hack at times. So he says that there's a bit of a disagreement within that building, but he said, let me make this abundantly clear. Kyle Shanahan is in total control. The Shanahans, and he said it with an S, meaning Mike and Kyle. And Mike Shanahan is always around that building. And Kyle is always seeking advice and guidance from his father. And so he said the Shanahans run that building. And remember, it was Kyle Shanahan that hired John Lynch, just in case you don't understand how that pecking order works in San Francisco. So although they may disagree, the guy that Kyle wants, Kyle is getting, okay? So he said, let's make this clear. Kyle Shanahan is in control, and John Lynch essentially does what Kyle Shanahan tells them to do. I'm like, oh, excuse me. I mean, we kind of already knew that, but to actually say it, you're like, well, damn. So what you saying is, John Lynch is like, come on, Kyle, we really didn't trade up to number 3. Both of them agreed that they needed to trade up to get a quarterback of the future because Jimmy Garoppolo ain't it. So they both agreed on that, but John Lynch is like, you really want to come up here to get Mac Jones? Come on, man, stop. We got to take either Trey Lance or Justin Fields. We got to take the guy with the upside. And Kyle's like, look, I need the guy that fits my system, that's going to be accurate with the football, that I know is going to be able to come in here and make us a contender right away. That's Mac Jones. It's not Trey Lance. It's not Justin Fields. It's Mac Jones. And John Lynch is like, so what you saying is we drafted Mac Jones at number 3. And Kyle's like, you're damn right. Not what I would have done if I were the 49ers, if that's what actually comes to fruition. I think you could have waited and not have given up as much, because I don't see anybody. No one else was going to fight you over Mac Jones in the top 5 of this draft. So now, why not wait until draft day and the Eagles are on the clock at number 6 to call the Eagles and trade up to 6 to get Mac Jones if you were that worried? I feel like, hell, you could have waited till number 7 at Detroit if Detroit's willing to move. And I think the Lions are open for business, and call them and say, hey, we just want to make sure. I don't think the Panthers are interested in Mac Jones, but just in case, let me call up the Lions and get in front of the Panthers and take Mac Jones at 7. I thought they could have waited until the day of the draft. I think they were just making sure that just in case something crazy at 3 happened, or 2 happens, they were in a position at 3 to be the beneficiaries. And why do I say that? Steve Young has come out and said, the Hall of Fame, beloved 49ers quarterback, still close to that franchise in the inner workings of it, said, look, the 49ers, let's not kid ourselves. They wanted Zach Wilson. He's the perfect fit for what they want to do. Duh, he's the perfect fit for what everybody wants to do, okay? That's who they really want. But, and that's why I said they called the Jets. Don't fool yourself when you hear that there were no discussions between the 49ers. And there wasn't any discussion, because the Jets said, I'm not moving out of 2. Stop calling me. Click up. So they wanted to get up to 2 to get Zach Wilson. They can't get Zach Wilson. He's going to be a Jet. But just in case the Jets decide they want to be freaky and they want to get Justin Fields instead, they want to be at number 3 to take full advantage of the gift and the offering and the blessing that just fell into their lap. That's not happening. They're going to have to settle for what it looks like, Mac Jones. Ugh, that's nasty. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I digress. Texans could pursue Alex Smith as a contingency plan. So they already got Tyrod Taylor. They could be sniffing around Alex Smith as a potential. It's nothing like having a black version and a white version of the same damn thing, okay? Now, he's not black Alex Smith is Tyrod Taylor, which Teddy Bridgewater is black Alex Smith. But he's like black Alex Smith light is Tyrod Taylor, okay? The Texans are. So what you saying is you're trying to prepare yourself for a stare-off with Deshaun Watson. You're really digging in your heels, and you're prepared to take this thing the distance. However long Deshaun wants to play this game, you're willing to play this game with him. Hey, man, I can do this all day. I got black Alex Smith light and Tyrod Taylor. I got the real thing and Alex Smith. Hey, look, if you trying to do this thing, we'll go 8-9 with Alex Smith, a combination of Alex Smith and Tyrod Taylor. And you probably, with those 2 on the roster, more likely than not in their injury history of late, you're probably going to need another guy too. So if I were the Texans, I wouldn't stop there. Go get you another game manager that can follow up the first 2 game managers that you have. And you better pray that all of those free agent acquisitions that you've made come together and gel in 1 year's time to give you a competitive football team, because this could be a stinker of a team this year. They could be 4-13 this year. It wouldn't shock me at all. You go get Alex Smith, though. I think you got a shot. With Tyrod Taylor, I don't think you have much of a shot unless you're playing some elite defense. So we'll see what happens, but I just find that interesting. So what you're saying is you're ready for this stare-off. You're ready for this game of chicken. You ain't flinching. Hey, Deshaun, man, get your coins in order, bruh. I know you over here fighting some legal battles potentially. Make sure you stacking them coins up to a nice height, a nice tall height. Because these boys ain't playing with your ass. Watch yourself. They ain't playing with your bitch ass. They ain't playing with you, man. You better be ready. As a wise man used to tell me back in the day, son, be ready. Chargers may be for sale. Dia Spanos Berberian, the sister of Dean Spanos, says that, hey, we broke over here, man. This team is draining us financially. We in a hole. Hey, L.A. court system, please force my brother to sell. He is killing his family. Dean is like, Hey, don't listen to her, man. She don't know what the hell she talking about. We ain't selling a damn thing, okay? We good over here. Matter of fact, me and my other sister, we gonna buy her ass out since she talking crazy. All right? So what you saying is, y'all ain't selling a damn thing. Hey, don't ignore the sister that they trying to portray as crazy over here. You know what you always do to somebody that's spewing truth? You try to make them look crazy. That's what people do. You make the person that's over there screaming at the top of their lungs, trying to tell you the truth. You try to make them look crazy by discrediting them. Make them sound like they're a cuckoo. So you're like, oh man, they crazy. Don't worry about what they talking about. She might be over here talking some real shit. The Chargers have never struck me. They've never struck me as a team with real money. I always worry about them, and I always worry about the Vegas Raiders. Always worry about those two ownership groups like, hey, y'all got money for real? Because I'm not really sure. Because they played in a dump, just like the Raiders played in a dump. And some of that is circumstantial, where you are and your lack of commitment to that area. And as we saw, both of those teams ultimately left. Some of that, though, may be because you couldn't get, you know, the backing from the city to get a new stadium, whatever the case may be. Everybody's situation is different. They played in dumps for years, and I just look at those two particular owners and those franchises and say, I don't know what your bread looked like. And look, when we talk about this, we're talking about this in relative terms. All right. They have money. Okay. They're not walking around like us, paycheck to paycheck for some of you out there. And, you know, they're trying to make ends meet. They got money. But how long is your money? Some of these NFL owners, like, the real owner in L.A. that's got all the bread is with the Rams, okay? He's the real guy with all the bread. You know, he built that stadium with his own money, essentially, in L.A. All right. I don't know if that's the case, which is why they're sharing the stadium. He's like, hey, I ain't got that kind of money, but I'd love to share with you. If that's okay with you, I'd love to come to L.A. and share with you. I don't know, man. I don't think they're selling the team. But, hey, sis might be spewing some real shit over here. Like, hey, man, we broke for real. Our financial situation is not how it appears from the outside looking in, man. A lot of debt being acquired with this team. We ain't making the kind of money that we thought we was going to be making. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So what you're saying is Chargers ain't really going to be up for sale. Don't hold your breath. Dean Spanos is not looking to sell this team. But there could be a little bit of fire there. Where there's smoke, usually there's fire. Keep my eye on that situation, but I don't think anything's going to happen. Matt Nagy will call plays in 2021. He's taking back over the play calling duties and responsibilities from offensive coordinator Bill Lazor, who was given that task last year as the Bears started to struggle. So what you saying is, if you're going to get fired, which you're going to get fired after this year, if you're going to get fired, you getting fired with your own gun, with your own bullets, and with you squeezing the trigger. That's essentially what you're saying. If I'm going down, guns are blazing with all my shit. Fair enough. Touche, Matt Nagy. Touche. I don't blame him for this. He never wanted to give up play calling responsibilities and duties anyway. No offensive-minded guy takes a head coaching job to let somebody else call plays. That's usually their baby. So you might have the title of offensive coordinator. You ain't calling a damn thing. Now, if you've been in the game for a very long time and you've been at it, you'll allow somebody else to call the plays. You don't mind. Your ego has been removed from the situation, i.e. Bruce Arians with Byron Leftwich, i.e. Andy Reid with Eric Bieniemy. You've been in the game long enough. You can remove your ego, okay, and let somebody else call the plays and get all the credit for offensive creativity, this, that, and the third. But when you're the first time as a head coach, as an offensive-minded guy, no. I'm calling the plays. That's why I got this job. This is what I like to do. He's calling the plays. He's going to get fired after this season. Okay, the Bears are going to be terrible this year. He's like, but if I'm getting fired, I'm going down with my shit. My gun, my bullets, me pulling the trigger. Understood. So what you're saying is, you're going to go down guns a-blazing with your own shit. Gotcha. Duly noted. Speaking of the Chicago Bears, GM Ryan Pace says of Andy Dalton. Quote, he's our starting quarterback as we head into this season. Closed quote. So what you saying is, hey, I'm about to get fired, ain't I? Yeah, you and your head coach, both of y'all gone after the season. Hold on though, Ryan's not done. He goes on to say, furthermore, quote, the fit with the offense, the leadership that he provides, his decision making, he's been to Pro Bowls. He's one of the more complete quarterbacks we evaluated in free agency, and we're excited to have him. We feel like we got better with Andy. Closed quote. So what you saying is you swung and missed on every big name quarterback that was out there. Carson Wentz, Matthew Stafford. Hell, you were all in on Russell Wilson to see if you could get him away from the Seahawks. You swung and missed on every big name quarterback that was out there. Even sniffed around Deshaun Watson and Sam Darnold before coming back to Andy like, shit, we struck out everywhere. Got to take Andy. So what you saying is Andy was the fallback plan, and I'm getting fired after the season, ain't I? You're damn right you are. Just so you know. Just so you know. Wide receiver Tyler Lockett got a $69 million extension over 4 years from the Seattle Seahawks, $37 million of it guaranteed. First and foremost, let me say congratulations to one of the most underrated wide receivers in all of football. I absolutely love Tyler Lockett's game. I think he's the perfect fit in Seattle, and I think he doesn't get enough credit. Similar to the way that Doug Baldwin over the life of his career never really got a ton of credit in Seattle. It was always Russ, and for good reason. But Doug Baldwin was a hell of a receiver at his peak in Seattle. Same thing can be said for Tyler Lockett. You know, everybody wants to talk about DK Metcalf, but it's Tyler Lockett that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It's Tyler Lockett that's leading the team in receiving. DK Metcalf is the flash. Tyler Lockett is the substance. I always gauge how the Seattle Seahawks fare in a game based off of Tyler Lockett's performance. DK Metcalf could tear you a new asshole and they could still lose the game. A lot of times, if Tyler Lockett is playing well, he takes some of that attention away from DK, and now that gives DK an opportunity to get some one-on-one coverages and one-on-one looks. And that's when I think their offense is more complete. When it's just DK and Russ, you can take away DK Metcalf. You can frustrate him. You can make him upset. We've seen that happen to the Seahawks before. When Tyler Lockett is playing well and then DK is getting some, then it becomes that much harder to stop their offense. I feel like as he goes, he's the X factor for that offense. As he goes, they go in the passing game. But that said, so what you saying is the real reason Jarran Reed wanted out of Seattle, even though he was due to make more money on a restructure in Seattle had he stayed, he decided to leave and go to Kansas City and make a lot less money over the next couple of years potentially. We'll see what happens. He signed a 1 year, $5 million deal that could get up to $7 million in Kansas City, when if he would have restructured, he would be making on annual $8 million and he would have got a lot of his money up front. That's the only thing that's different in the restructure. Instead of a lot of your money being pushed out and backloaded, you get a lot of that in guarantees right now. You get your money right now. You can either spread it out over time, which is usually how your contract is structured initially, or we can just give it to you right now. Guess he didn't want his money right now. He felt slighted. He said he wanted a new deal. That was the biggest point of contention is, I want a new deal. Forget about restructuring. If we're going to restructure, to hell with that. How about we just tear this shit up and just do a whole new deal? And they was like, nah, bro, that ain't what we trying to do. We just want to give you some upfront money. He was like, nah, I see all these other dudes over here getting money. All these other cats out here getting paid. Y'all got money to pay Tyler Lockett? What about me? So what you saying is you was upset that Tyler Lockett was about to get this bread. So you decided, if he getting paid and I can't get paid, I need out. Okay, fair enough. You just took money out your own pocket off of the strength of principle. Where they do that at in the NFL? And this ain't off some, hey man, I feel disrespected, you know, and I don't like how they're running things in Seattle. This is just off of, I want a new deal, even though I got a really solid deal already in place. I'm going to take less to go to Kansas City? I don't know, man. The only thing I can say is that he is going to play next to one of the most dominant defensive tackles in all of football, and Chris Jones. And a lot of times when you go and play next to a guy like that, your numbers spike. Go ask Leonard Floyd in L.A. what happened. 1 year with Aaron Donald got that man a fat-ass payday this offseason to stay in L.A. We saw the same thing with Dante Fowler Jr. Some fat-ass stats next to Aaron Donald. What did he do in Atlanta this past year? I forgot. Somebody remind me. What did he do in Atlanta this year? I'm asking for a friend. Anyway, I digress. With that said, let's get to our final segment of the day. And you know what time it is. Garbage time. If you're out there, before we get started with garbage time, I want to quickly ask you to subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And I also want you to hit the like button. We're up to 65, so feel good about where we are right now. We're not at 75, but I feel like we can get there. 150 of you plus are out there right now. Hit the like button if you haven't already done so. I'm going to thank you in advance for your participation and your ability to continue to help this brand grow. And you're doing a huge solid by hitting the like button. And for those of you who have already hit it, thank you. You know, I rock with y'all. Really appreciate you. So with that said, let's wrap this show up with what I feel like is an interesting topic. So, you know, when you're watching these pro days and you know, you get kind of wrapped up into all of these pro days, you stumble on a guy. And this is another thing that I use the combine as is a tool to uncover and unearth guys that I just didn't have on my radar. You know, I talk about this all the time. You get a 6'3" corner that's 207 pounds out of San Jose State. You're like, and he runs a 4.43, and you're like, shit, who the hell is this guy? Well, got some work to do. That's what I use the combine for. All of these guys aren't on my radar, you know. I don't follow college football closely all year long. I'm not a draft guy. You know, I'm not one of these guys that spends 365 days a year focused and fixated on the draft to be ready for when February hits so I could talk about all these guys. I start my process once the NFL season ends. I'm an NFL guy that loves the draft because it's a part of the NFL. So when the combine shows up, I'm looking at the combine to help me, you know, check off boxes of guys that I've already had a chance to take a look at. And I'm also looking for them to help me unearth gems potentially. So in watching some of these pro days, I'm looking to unearth a few gems. And I was watching the Florida Pro Day, and I think I might have just unearthed a gem. Okay, so hear me out on this. His name is Samus Reyes. Okay, he's a part of the NFL International Program, and I've talked about the NFL International Program. This is a program that the NFL has put together. It's almost taking the place, if you will, of NFL Europe, because that's how guys across the pond used to get the experience that they needed to come over to the NFL and potentially get an opportunity with the team. Now that there is no more NFL Europa, and that's been gone for probably over a decade now, they've got to find ways to get guys from across the pond here into the NFL because there are talented guys over there as well. And you saw Jordan Mailata, a guy that was a rugby star, come over here a couple of years ago. You know, we remember we all went apeshit over the receiver that the Vikings took that ultimately converted to tight end. I don't know if he's still with Cincinnati, but at one point he was with Cincinnati. The guy from Germany that, you know, everybody was calling him the white Randy Moss. He was like 6'4", ran a sub 4.5, I think, at like 230 pounds or whatever. And I never saw him on the football field. So, but we all got excited about him, and he got drafted, and it was a big story. And you know, a lot of times that's how these types of situations end. But you just never know. You could have the next F.A. Obata. Remember, he was a guy that was in the NFL international program. Panthers had him on the practice squad. He gets his opportunity. He makes the most of it. And like I talked about, he's parlayed that into another contract now with the Buffalo Bills. So you're hoping that you hit an inside straight with one of these international guys. Jordan Mailata had to play tackle with the Eagles, all kinds of banged up on the offensive line. And at times I thought he showed well. He struggled. He's a young guy. First time really getting extensive action. But, you can't teach 6'8". You can't teach 330. And you can't teach the kind of athletic exploits that he has. And this Samus Reyes guy came to the United States of America from Chile to play basketball. Tremendous athlete. Was one of the better, young players over in Chile. Decided to bring his talents to the United States of America so that he could play basketball. He came over here on his own. It's not like somebody sent for him or he was scouted and recruited and brought over here. He came over here on his own merit. Played college basketball after going to a JUCO for 2 years at a school. Forgot what school it was. But he got a chance to get into this NFL international program. And what they do is they take a handful of guys, like 5 to 10 guys every year. They send them to the IMG Academy in Florida, have them work out for, upwards of a month and get them prepared for an opportunity at a pro day so that scouts can be exposed to them and they can get in front of the right people and have an opportunity for people to lay eyes on them, talk to them, see them work out, measure them, all that good stuff, and maybe have a team take a flyer on them. Or if they don't get drafted at all, they could end up in someone's camp as a developmental project and prospect. So Samus Reyes comes over from Chile to play basketball. He plays for 2 years, but he worked out at the Florida Pro Day. He's now a tight end prospect in the upcoming 2021 NFL Draft. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. He's ran a 4.65 40, okay? And depending on who you talk to, it was a 4.6 flat 40. So somewhere in the 4.6 to 4.65 at 6'5", 260. Jumped a 40-inch vert, 10.5 broad. And I watched him crank out 31 reps of 2.25. The guy is chiseled of just straight muscle. Runs like a deer. And I'm watching this guy catch the football. His hands look natural. And I'm saying to myself, oh shit, we may have us one here, fellas. So what you saying is, we got the next Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates on our hands. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow your roll. As a wise man once said, pump your brakes and drive slow, homie. Drive slow, homie. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, why can't this guy be Mo Alley Cox on steroids? Mo Alley Cox, former VCU basketball player turned NFL tight end. He's a damn good tight end in this league. I like Mo Alley Cox a lot. Okay? And Mo Alley Cox is nowhere near the athlete this kid is. We've seen this happen before. Take a basketballer, turn him into a footballer, and see what this guy can do on the gridiron. Same thing happened with Julius, what was his name from the Denver Broncos? Oh shit, I always forget his name. Julius something. Julius Thomas. Another former basketball player. Take him, turn him into a football player. Same shit happened with Jimmy Graham. Take his ass off the basketball court from the hardwood to the gridiron. I'm not saying he's any of those guys. I'm not saying he's going to have that impact, but am I intrigued? You're damn right. And for a tight end, needy, starving team like Washington, if you're a Washington fan out there, a guy like Samus Reyes should be on your radar. I don't know where you take a Samus Reyes at. What is a good spot for him in a draft? When is it okay to take a flyer on a guy with no football experience, with no tape, that's just a workout warrior at this point? When is it okay? You know my mantra, you know my motto. The same way I treat specialists in the draft is the same way I treat guys like Samus Reyes that's coming from a different sport, that's never played it, but he looks the part and you want to take a flyer, I always talk about, if you got a guy that's a injury risk, he's a medical risk, high risk guy. If you're talking about a character issue guy and a guy that has some issues off the field, had to transfer from 2 different schools, came from a JUCO, didn't have good grades, and he didn't know how to act at college, and got into some fights and had to transfer, all this good stuff that we associate with guys with character flaws and issues and red flags. 5th round or later. Specialists, red flags, character issues, and I'm putting guys like Samus Reyes into that category. Anybody that you're not sure of, 5th round or later, got no problems with it. You don't spend a 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st on any of those types of players. But if you're gonna draft a kicker or a long snapper or a punter or a red flag character guy or an injury guy or one of these international guys that doesn't have any experience, 5th round or later. I don't know if Samus Reyes is going to get drafted or not. I don't know if teams are not. He's on teams' radar. I can tell you this. Daniel Jeremiah was watching this kid work out and he said, "Who is that?" And I said the exact same thing. I'm watching this kid run and I went to my computer immediately and typed his name in. I'm like, why didn't I see him on tape? When Florida went to 2 tight end sets, why didn't I see Samus Reyes? That's because his ass didn't go to the University of Florida. That's because he didn't play college football. So I'm like, well, oh shit. We got something here. You guys, I hope all of these teams, Washington included, I hope you're paying attention to this shit. He's 6'5", he's 260, 4'6", 4'65", whatever, blazing fast. That's fast as shit for a guy his size. Okay, I talked about tight ends just to put what Kyle Pitts did in perspective and let you know just how fast Kyle Pitts really is. When we're talking tight ends, to be effective in this league don't have to run 4.4. Don't even have to run 4.5. The most effective tight ends in this league are running 4.6, 4.7. So when you get a guy running 4.5, when you get a guy running 4.4, you're like, whoa. George Kittle is a 4.52 guy. Travis Kelce is a 4.65 40 guy. I think 4.58, 4.63, somewhere in there. This guy's right in that neighborhood, right in that wheelhouse as a Travis Kelce. Again, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, he looks the part. All of the physical requirements and the measurables and the athletic characteristics and traits and DNA profiles, he checks every single box. Obviously, he's not going to have the technique you want in a run blocking. He's 31 reps of 2.25. I can teach him how to block. He's a natural athlete. I'm watching him run. He's fluid. He's got natural hands. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Where do I sign? Even if he's not ready year one, you stick him on your roster, on your practice squad. And again, there's dangers in trying to sneak a guy onto your practice squad, especially when everyone's had a look at this kid, knows there's no tape out there, but they're intrigued. He may be a guy that has to make your team, but again, in today's NFL climate, people might not be as gung-ho to snatch up your stuff. But I don't know. I can just tell you, after watching Washington, I can't speak for anybody else's team out there. After watching Washington's group of tight ends last year, you know, the Tamarick Hemingways and the Marcus Balls of the world, after watching these guys parade on the football field last year for Washington, I'm saying, we can't use a Samus Reyes, man. I don't know how they feel about Thad Moss. I don't know how they feel about moving someone and converting them to tight end. I don't know what the tight end position looks like. But they didn't do shit in free agency. So they either feel confident about guys already on the roster and some things that they've got in the works, or they feel confident that they're going to be able to solve the lack of depth at tight end and quality, for that matter, at tight end in the draft. I don't know where this kid is going to end up. Somebody's going to draft him, though. I don't think this kid goes undrafted. Not with those measurables, not with the way I watched him run and catch the football. Somebody's going to take a flyer on Samus Reyes. In a very skimp tight end draft class, he stands out. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So, that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T, on this Friday edition of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me on this show today. One final time, gonna have a call to action for you guys. Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell if you haven't already done so. Really do appreciate you guys supporting the movement known as the Louie T Network. And hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Please hit the like button. 88 likes. So we're getting there. All right. One final push. We can get this thing to 100, man. I swear we can. Over 150 of you still out there. Hit the like button if you haven't already done so. I greatly appreciate you. And if you're out there listening to this by means of Stitcher, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, wherever you're getting this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Rate and review. 5 stars. All right? 5 stars and a great review helps the podcast on those other platforms as well. So, can't thank you guys enough for chopping it up with me on your Friday afternoon, Friday evening. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I am definitely going to enjoy this weekend and really start planning to hit the ground running on Monday with all of this newfound time that I have now that my son's back at the daycare. You can't begin to understand how excited I am. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to allow you guys to get out of here. I appreciate you chopping it up with me. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care. Have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.